Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another episode of Grey Man Operations.
In this video, we're going to be taking a look at weapon-mounted lights. I've long since said that weapon-mounted lights are super important, and we're going to look at the viability of that in this video. However, before we get into that, we have to talk about our Patron giveaway. Now, we're giving away our September giveaway in this video. So if you are a patron, make sure you watch to the end. What you stand a chance to win this month is Core Essentials gun belt,
Strauss & Co. leather wallet,
1 of 1 EDC defensive blade designed by myself,
Ace Beam TAC AA flashlight,
Urban Warrior compact ready med pouch,
Urban Warrior EDC ready pouch,
Nightcore NUP30 pouch / sling bag,
and the Urban Warrior EDC ready jeans.
So guys, as you know, we give away gear like this every single month, excuse me, every single week sometimes if you are a patron. If you want to join on Patreon, it's the first link in the video description below if you're watching on YouTube.
And if you're watching this on Facebook or Instagram, it's the first comment.
Undoubtedly, someone in the comments is going to say you can't use a weapon-mounted light like a handheld light. They are 100% correct. You would use a weapon-mounted light when you use or intend to use your firearm. If the situation doesn't call for the potential use of your firearm, you are not going to use your weapon-mounted light. It's not a tool used for administrative searching.
So guys, as you know, I'm a newish firearm owner. And so since I started carrying, Ryan literally forced me to have a weapon-mounted light from the beginning. Now, initially, I didn't really see the value or completely understand why it was so important. But when we started doing these drills and started looking at the value of it, did I only really understand and see how important it is for me to have it on my firearm.
So what we did first was I tried to simulate what most people who don't have weapon-mounted lights are going to do. They're more than likely going to have a handheld that they're going to have to use at night. And then they would have to draw their firearm with one hand and shoot with one hand. And the thing is, that is kind of doable until you have to fire multiple shots. Then things get a bit more complicated. So that was Michelle's first drill. The reason this is important is Michelle has no formal training, and I didn't tell her what to do as well. Yeah, she's seen me on course a few times, but I didn't tell her where to hold the flashlight, how to hold the flashlight. All I said was try to use it in momentary on as opposed to constant on.
Can I just say, we would go to the range and, okay, beforehand you'd say we're going to do some low light exercises. So we'll go to the range and I have absolutely no idea what we're going to do. So when Ryan demonstrates and shows me what he expects me to do, or he says, try this, he makes it look incredibly easy. Like when I see him do it, it's fast, it's accurate, it's good. And I'm like, nah, I can do that until I do it.
So something you have to realize is everything is chilled until you put a gun in someone's hand.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, something that is very simple becomes something you have to break down step by step. Now, if you combine that, with the concept of if it's for real, it's your life, then these little things become very difficult to do, like opening your hand. Okay.
Yeah.
How many times didn't have to tell Michelle, drop the flashlight? She would not let go of the flashlight. Now you think, now it's something super simple, but in that moment, it becomes very, very complex.
Yeah. In my mind, I'm saying, all you have to do when the beep goes off, you're going to drop the flashlight, you're going to draw your firearm, and then you're going to shoot. And it's like I would tell myself, okay, drop. I heard that beep, and it's like my hand just wouldn't let go of the flashlight. And then sometimes it would, and sometimes it wouldn't. And that kind of like threw me off.
This is an added complexity that isn't required if you carry a weapon-mounted light. With the shooting with one hand, I want you to notice where she holds the flashlight that she's holding in her hand. She brings it in very close to her chest or her head. The whole notion of having a weapon-mounted light is going to cause you to be flagged, and people are going to shoot at the light. If you're carrying a handheld, you're probably going to keep it close into your chest anyway. Okay, the only difference is now you only have one hand to fire your gun. So the weapon, the flashlight, is going to be in a very similar position close to your head-ish. And the reason we do that is because we naturally want to bring everything, we naturally want to align our hands. That's a natural thing. And It's advantageous because if you don't have a red dot, you're actually lighting up your rear sights. So you can actually see your front and rear sights better. But that's just a byproduct of a natural movement. Our hands naturally want to come together. I did, however, encourage you to try the FBI technique, which everyone thinks is going to be so easy and amazing when you hold the flashlight away from your body. What I want you to remember when you do this is if you don't aggressively train this technique, you're not going to be able to properly do it. One, your flashlight isn't going to point where you think it's going to point. Two, your gun isn't going to point where you think it's going to point, because what's going to happen is as you extend your flashlight away and your hand away and you need to track something moving, one of these two things is going to follow that person. Because if you move them both, your hand and either your flashlight's going to follow him and your gun's going to be far off to one side, or your gun's going to follow him and your flashlight's going to be far off to one side.
When I did the FBI technique, I found that naturally my hand wanted to move closer to my body. Okay, but then he would point out, keep your hand far out, because when you are presenting your light, you don't want it on you, right? You don't want to give away your position. And so I'd keep my hand out there, but now I have to draw with one hand and keep the light on the target, draw in one hand. And it's just, I found that when I draw my firearm, when this hand's move in a certain direction, I felt like this was doing it as well. It's like I couldn't control this one and allow this one to do different things. It just got really confusing. The light's up here, my firearm's down there, and I didn't like that.
So the value of that is, guys, like I say, Michel is very similar to most of the people out there in the world who don't often train low light techniques and who have a flashlight on them and think it's going to be just fine. I promise you are going to struggle. Guys, go to the range and train it. If you have a flashlight like this, where you can lower the brightness, nobody else in the range is going to mind, even if it's daytime. We did a lot of this in the day, and it's very similar, or not day, but we did a lot of this under bright lights, and it's very similar under low light. Okay, but you still have to point the flashlight. Okay?
Sorry, I just want to add, there's so much importance to dry firing, but it's equally important, I think, to get out to the range and use live ammo and practice these things. Once you are shooting live ammo, it really changes things completely.
I had to try the Harry's the FBI technique, excuse me, and then we simply used a weapon-mounted light.
That did take getting used to, though. I needed to learn. So previously I would just draw my firearm, get my grip, extend and put my finger on the trigger and pull. And now I needed to add an extra function. So even just that, I needed to dry fire and I needed to train that. It felt initially, now this was before we even added a handheld flashlight, when I was just needing to activate my weapon-mounted light, that already felt overwhelming in the beginning. I was like, I first used my trigger finger.
Yeah, the thing is, it's an added step, right? And most people practice their draw stroke in such a small sort of environment, in terms of they're just going to draw the gun, push it out and shoot, that the moment you add a step, it throws everything out. And that's why it's so important to train these steps, but train it live, because when you're doing it at home, everything seems simple. When there's the fear of something very fast coming out the other end, all of a sudden muscles tense up, your fingers don't have the dexterity. So you really have to practice that ability. I do just want to speak to you about weapon lights. It doesn't have to be expensive. Tritium sights these days are like 2,500 rand if you're in South Africa. For a little bit more, you can get a really decent weapon light. Obviously, you've got the big boys like your Surefire X300 or your Streamlight TLR1 HL. If you've got budget, obviously go for that. If you want something more compact, I would go for the Streamlight TLR7A or the Inforce Wild One. The O-lights, I have to talk to you about this. Now, I'm not an O-light hater. I would rather prefer an O-light to no light. But the rechargeable O-lights, the only thing I don't like about them is the battery drains. See, when I stored these things, the battery was full and it drains by itself. All of them. I mean, I'm talking about every single rechargeable O-light that I have. They're all dead, right? Because the batteries drain, even the bigger ones. But if you take the ones that use a removable battery, a non-rechargeable, these don't drain. Okay, so if you want to go O-light, go for ones that don't have rechargeable batteries. But if they do have rechargeable batteries, make sure the batteries are removable. This Phoenix GL19R is a very good option. And then this Nightcore NPL25 for your subcompact. Such a nice whip-mounted light. Michel is pretty much the only one in South Africa to have this. I suppose the perks of being married to me. I'm trying to get Nightcore to bring it into South Africa because I believe they would sell a ton. It's a really good weapon-mounted light for the subcompact pistol. Something I also want to talk about is the probability of getting a jam when shooting with one hand, especially for ladies, is much higher because ladies generally, I'm not saying generally, this is such a bad way to say this, but your wrist strength in women is less than in men.
Yeah.
And when you go to one hand, the possibility of limp wristing is so much higher. If you have a flashlight in your left hand and you're limp wristing with your right hand, you've got a very complicated series of things to do to solve that particular jam.
And I just feel a lot more comfortable with both my hands on the firearm.
Yeah. Your follow-up shots are going to be better. And as we know from pretty much every single video we've ever seen on real-life shootings, it's very rarely one shot to put a guy down.
We're not saying don't carry a handheld flashlight. Like, that is equally important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of our drills involve Michel dropping a handheld and going to weapon-mounted light. Because that's more than likely what's going to happen. You're probably going to be, let's say you that woman, you go to the shopping mall, it's winter, 7 o'clock, it's dark. It's the 25th, everybody's gotten paid, so you have to park all the way at the back. And now you're walking to your car and 3 or 4 dodgy guys standing by your car. Your first port of call should be your handheld.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on? You use your verbal tools, get away from me, get away from my car, etc., etc. They now come towards you. You maybe have your kid with you, so you can't run away. You've got them lit up so you can see this is a threat. And now you switch at some point when you feel your life is now in danger, you switch to your handheld, weapon-mounted light on. That is even going to help you discern who is the most dangerous person here. Someone might have a knife, someone might have a gun, someone might have a stick. You have to ensure, who you're going to engage first. These are complex things to do at the best of times. The idea that you're going to do it with one hand, man, it's hard, really. Look, I hate to recommend things, and everything on the channel is an opinion. I think it's a recommendation. But man, I feel people who don't carry weapon-mounted lights are severely disadvantaging themselves.
Let's switch the view and we can give away some gear to our patrons.
So guys, as always, those of you who follow the channel know how this is going to work. I'm going to take the names of the current active patrons and I'm going to copy them into a name randomizer, which is going to randomize the order of the names. There are currently 215 of you. So I'm going to paste that here, backspace, we're going to randomize, and as you can see 215 names were randomized. I'm then going to take the numbers 1 to 215, come on, when this thing decides it's going to be done, and I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into a random wheel of names. Okay, let's just scroll to the bottom and make sure it's 215. It is, backspace. I'm then going to shuffle it, and as you can see, there are 215 entries. I'm going to click, this is going to spin, it's going to generate a random number, which is going to correspond to a name, and that's going to be the winner of that comprehensive EDC setup that we are giving away. So the number is 157. And number 157 in our name randomizer is going to be someone called TK. No idea who that is, but I'll find that person on Patron and make contact, and that is the winner of our competition. Let's switch the view and get back to the video.
Well done to that Patron winner. Guys, remember we do this every month, and next month we're giving away a big prize. You're going to want to get in on that.
We haven't even touched on the fact of how these things disrupt your visual horizon. For example, if you don't like bright lights, look away now. So, for example, that can be very distracting. And this is a tiny little flashlight. If you go to your bigger, higher lumen flashlights, like your 1000 lumen type stuff, so there's that advantage as well. So definitely, I would say your first modification to your firearm should be a weapon-mounted light. That is it, guys. Have a good week. Be safe. Train hard. Cheers. God bless.